Sup, guys? It's Toad back with you off of a winning night, so the slump discontinues. Only 2-1 last night. It was a win. I wish it was better. I got the wins on the college basketball game on UT Arlington. They were winning for like most of the first half, I think, and then fell way behind in the second half, and it looked like it wasn't going to get there at all. They went from being up by like 8, fairly deep into the first half or something, all the way to being down, I don't know, 14 in the second half. I'm like, oh, God, this is not going to be good. But they were just kind of hanging right near that number, man. And they came back and they made it pretty close again. And they were definitely able to cover that one, only losing by, I believe, 4. So that was a win against Arkansas State, who I thought was in a big letdown spot there. And then the hockey over got there with San Jose and St. Louis. Decent amount of shots going on in that game. It was a very consistent scoring game for the most part. It was 2 goals apiece in the first 2 periods, and then at that point I'm like, yeah, this is looking pretty decent. And once you get to the third period, you might see the defenses tire a little bit more, so maybe you're going to get that additional goal that'll put it over, and that happened. So we got to the 7 on that one, so that won. Some of my leans were correct. I think all of my NBA side leans were correct in all 3 games last night, but I didn't play any of them. And then the hockey, the strongest like market read that I talked about was the Edmonton side, and that one was an easy winner as well, which I kind of wish I played that one. Looking at the market throughout the day, it felt like I was like, man, maybe I should play this. My analysis of the situation was like, I don't know. I kind of want to stay off it. The market read was very strong. All right. And then I have to talk about the NFL game, right? My one loss on the San Francisco 49ers. I'm just going to say it. I mean, I've been saying it for a while. Brock Purdy is not a good quarterback. I mean, when he loses any of his surrounding cast, he turns into a pumpkin, basically. He sucks, dude. Brock Purdy, not good. Not only overrated, but I think he's actual garbage. He's not a good quarterback. You have a situation like that where you have the Rams having to come off that max effort against Buffalo, quick turnaround time, and they have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and you're telling me that Brock Purdy can't even lead his team to a touchdown against that team? No. Like, give me a break. It's fucking ridiculous. Fuck you. And San Francisco can't even get 200 yards of offense. Oh, but they're injured, man. Christian McCaffrey is out. Give me a break. I mean, this is a plug-and-play running back league. It's not that much of a downgrade. If you're actually a good quarterback, I'm not saying that you should win that game every single time, although you should win it more often than not, I would say. But you got to at least put up more than 6 points, less than 200 yards, and 200 yards of total offense and no touchdowns against one of the league's worst defenses. Give me a break. But San Francisco's defense actually showed up in the game, or maybe the Rams' offense was just kind of not firing on all cylinders. Either way, that part of the handicap was correct. And San Francisco, I don't think, was ever trailing until like the fourth quarter. They were winning 3-0, and I'm like, oh man, this is like such an ugly game. They're winning 6-3, and I think finally they fell behind in the fourth quarter, down 9-6, and then San Francisco had the ball. They're driving with about 6 minutes left, I think. They're in the Rams territory. They're in field goal range. I think they're near the Rams, like 30-yard line. So if they stall out, they're going to be able to kick a game-tying field goal, most likely, I would say. And what happens? No, Brock Purdy throws an interception because that's how good he is, man. That's how good he is in the clutch. Interception, basically game over. Rams are able to chew some of the clock. They get down and they get a field goal. San Francisco has essentially no time left at that point, and they burned all their timeouts. You think Brock Purdy is going to lead them to a touchdown? Hell no. And at that point, it's not even going to matter because I didn't play San Francisco on the money line. Luckily, I guess, because I would have lost more money if I did that. I had the -2.5, had the good number. The market read was there. The situation was there. It went off 3, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, I mean, you know how it goes, man. They did not cover and they did not win. So way to go, Brock Purdy. You are not a good quarterback. Let's go. Let's talk about today's slate. I don't have any plays today, though, but I will talk about today's card. We do have a small Friday college basketball card, kind of the more typical type of Friday basketball card that you see once the season kind of gets underway. Really, the one big game here, if there are any, if you want to consider this to be a big game, is the Indiana-Nebraska game, the Big Ten matchup here. Nebraska's up from 2.5 to 4. It's an interesting line at the very least. I'm not going to play this game. I'm looking at yesterday here. I don't want to play this one, but it's interesting because Indiana, I mean, of course, they have the name recognition. Everybody considers Indiana to be a powerhouse basketball program, although I've been saying I think they're down this year. I know they were in the rankings to start the season. I do think they're overrated. They're sitting at a nice 8-2 record, though, and 1-0 so far in conference play, so that's looking pretty good for them. But then you got Nebraska. I mean, they are at home, so you got to give them the home court advantage, obviously. Nebraska only sitting at 6-2 and 0-1 in the Big Ten. So the public, if they're going to come in and play this game, I think they're only going to look at this and go one way on this and see, wait a minute, Nebraska is laying points here. You mean I get to take Indiana, the team that was ranked, the team that I know, who I think is the better basketball program, team with the better record, and you're telling me I get 4.5 points with them? Yeah, that is what the odds makers are doing. They're not throwing money away, so I would tend to lean to the Nebraska side just because it looks like a suspect line. Problem is, I think maybe this line is a little bit too high. If you look at Ken Baum's rankings, he doesn't have Indiana that good. He has them like in the 40-something range ranking-wise, but he has Nebraska down at like 62 or 63. So he does still have Indiana as the better team here. So this line is giving Nebraska more than home court. So take from that what you will, but I do think the line is a little bit too high at this point. But Ken Baum is not always right. I mean, you can't just blindly follow his rankings, and there isn't really a situational aspect to this game that I really want to consider here. I mean, yeah, Indiana's coming off their first conference win. It was against a pretty weak Minnesota team. The only thing I will say, it is their first true road game, so that does make it a little bit more of a difficult spot for Indiana for that reason. So situationally, I guess, slight edge to Nebraska. Nebraska is coming off a pounding as well in their first Big Ten game. That was a road game. They lost badly to Michigan State. I mean, Michigan State's a pretty decent team. They tend to fly under the radar for the most part. But you don't want to lose to anybody by 37 points, man. I mean, that's an embarrassing performance. So it does look like maybe it is more of a bounce-back spot for Nebraska. So, again, the lean would be still to Nebraska. But that line, it really looks like you're not getting any value on that number with Nebraska. So I'm just going to stay away. I would not take the points with Indiana either, though, because it looks like the odds makers are basically just handing you that on a platter. And I'm like, I don't want that at all, man. So I'm just going to stay away. And then Colorado, South Dakota State, actually a somewhat interesting matchup. Colorado's coming off a rivalry win against Colorado State, where I actually think Colorado State is probably better than Colorado is this year, even though it hasn't shown in the record so far. Colorado's faced a fairly difficult schedule. I mean, Michigan State, not a bad team. They lost. They beat UConn, who UConn is not actually the second best team in the nation, but still a good team. Iowa State, also a very good team. I won money on that one after I thought Colorado was in the big letdown spot after the win over UConn. They got blasted by Iowa State, but Iowa State's good. Now Colorado's coming off a rivalry win at home against Colorado State, where Colorado wasn't even laying the full home court advantage in that one. So the odds makers are telling you Colorado really is not that great. So now they're coming off of that. So will it be a letdown coming off the big rivalry win? It's possible. South Dakota State's 0-2 on the road. They're a pretty good team. I mean, their two road losses. I mean, one is to Montana, who not a great team, but at least a pretty good Big Sky team. And then they lost to Nevada in the last game. And I pointed that out. I said I thought Nevada was probably going to cover the double digits in that one, which they did. Nevada was coming off a really embarrassing performance. They were in a bounce-back spot there. That was a tough game for them. But still, this is another road game. This is a second straight road game. This is not that easy of a spot for South Dakota State either, in my opinion. So I think the spot's kind of bad for both teams in that one. Colorado's up from, 7 with massive juice. So really 7.5/8, I guess, up to 8 with juice. So maybe a little bit of money coming in, driving the Colorado line upward a little bit. Not going to play it, though. Over to hockey, we have one isolated game today, which is Ottawa at Carolina. I mean, this game, I don't have a lot of thoughts on this game, really. I mean, it could be a decent match. I mean, Ottawa's not that bad of a team. You're probably going to get Allmark in net for this one because he played one game after getting the rest there. So I would expect he's going to play another game here and then maybe get rested tomorrow in the back end of the back-to-back in an easier opponent game against Pittsburgh there, a game against an easier opponent. This is a big game. It's a weird, isolated road game where Ottawa just has to go down to Carolina for this one game and then come back home. So if they're going to throw a lot of focus onto this game, I would expect them to maybe be in a fade spot in the back-to-back coming off of this big game, especially if they win tonight. You're going to want to look to fade them against Pittsburgh tomorrow. So I will say that. Who knows if they're going to actually play well tonight or not, but I mean, Carolina's a good team, so Ottawa is going to bring focus in that game. Ottawa's coming off an easy win over Anaheim, as you probably just saw. Carolina's coming off a not very impressive win over San Jose. Carolina's been rolling with Kochetkov in net recently. It looks like they were using Martin for a while. I think Cam Anderson was their starting goalie, but I think he's still injured. Their other goalies haven't been doing that badly, though, and they're coming off that kind of lackluster game against San Jose where they won, but not impressively, and now they got Ottawa coming in. They don't have any big games up next. They have extra day off here with 2 days off, so Carolina has the better rest and travel situation here, so it's not really a bad spot for Carolina here. Carolina's up from minus 191 to minus 201, 75% of tickets, 99% of the cash. Is probably not accurate, but it does look like the money is potentially coming in on the Carolina side there because they are the better team, and it's not a particularly bad spot for them, and they do have some advantages as far as the scheduling is concerned there, so nothing else to really say about that. And then we have NBA. We do have a decent slate of NBA, and I know I'm not playing any of these games. None of these games really interest me. I mean, I find it interesting that the 76ers, who are sitting at 7-15 against a 10-15 Pacer team, the 70s who made the conference final last year, the 76ers are laying 6 and they're up to 6.5. Well, again, you got to pay attention to injury information, and the 76ers, we know they've been playing as an injured team all year, and they're finally playing with basically a full roster, as I think they do have Joel Embiid and Paul George both there. I think they both played in the previous game, so there is a reason why the 76ers are laying points like this. The public's going to come in and look to probably only take the points of the Pacers here, because who's going to want to take a 7-15 Sixers team? I guess even if they know Joel Embiid is back, they probably still don't want to lay those points because the 76ers have been so bad in general. 65% of the tickets, 86% of the cash on the Pacers, though, but it looks like the line is moving in the Sixers' direction, and that's really kind of the only way I would lean in this game. I mean, with the 76ers, with their full roster, they are actually the better team. Pacers really have been struggling. I mean, they really are not a very good defensive team at the very least. So those are my thoughts on that one. Lakers T-Wolves, I will point out the T-Wolves up from 8.5 to 9. It looks like it's a huge line on the T-Wolves. 59% of the tickets, only 57% of the cash. And you're thinking, well, the Lakers have a slightly better record than the T-Wolves, so why are the T-Wolves laying this many points? Well, it's twofold. The odds makers are telling you that for the one thing, the T-Wolves are actually the better team. I agree. They are actually the better team over the Lakers. Lakers, I think, have beaten some bad teams. I don't think they're as good as maybe they looked early in the season. Their best players are very old, and then that leads you to why this line is so extreme, is that LeBron is not playing in this game. LeBron is out. It looks like AD is probably going to play, although he's day-to-day as well, but the main factor here is LeBron is out. If LeBron was playing, you'd probably see the T-Wolves around, I would guess, 5 or 6 in this game, which still looks like kind of a high price on the T-Wolves, and now it's 9 because LeBron is out. I'm going to stay away. Again, I'm staying away from all of these games, but those are just, I'm just putting out some of the scenarios here. And then Suns Jazz, the reason why the Suns moved from 4.5 to 8 on the road, they got 73% of tickets on them, 70% of the cash, however, coming in on the Jazz. So it looks like a kind of pros versus Joes split so far in the market in this game. The reason why the Suns have moved so dramatically from 4.5 to 8 is that Kevin Durant looks like he is coming back in this game, and then that would put the Suns in a reverse injured player theory spot where, like I usually say, when you have a star player, the first game that they go down, the team usually steps up their play to accommodate for that injury, to what's the word I'm even looking for, to compensate for that injury. They usually have one big game and step up their effort in that first game, and then maybe take a step back the next game. But then when that player returns, a lot of times you'll see the team get a little bit complacent, oh, we have our guy back, we don't have to quite play as hard now. But then that guy returning into the rotation. He needs to get adjusted to playing the game again at that speed. The team has to get adjusted to playing with him again. So there is that adjustment period, adjusted to him playing again. There is that adjustment period there. So that is the reverse injured player theory. You'll see them in this case, laying more points than maybe they should be, just because the star player is coming back, and the line tends to overreact to it and not really tend to factor in that adjustment period. So I would agree with where the cash is coming in on this one, and agree with the Jazz side in that one, fading that sentiment. So no plays today, but those are my thoughts on all those games. Quick video today, man. It's a small Friday card. I will be back tomorrow. I think there's probably going to be a big college basketball card. I don't know. Usually Saturday is a big card, so I assume that it probably is, even though I know we're getting into the holiday period where the basketball slate is a little bit less for college. We'll have NBA, NHL. NHL is always a big Saturday card, too. I don't know if NBA might be a short card tomorrow, I don't know, but I got to talk about all that. And we have college football starting back up again tomorrow as well. I know there's an FCS game tonight, as I pointed out yesterday, but I don't really do anything with FCS. It is the FCS playoffs starting, I believe, in college football in the lesser half of Division I college football. So a lot of stuff to talk about. Like I said, I was considering doing a bowl special, but these lines are just so crazy, moving all over the place, and so much information comes in later before these later bowls happen that it almost doesn't even make sense to do it. I mean, last year I just talked about each one as it went. Maybe I'll talk about the college football playoff when that is set to begin, which I think those games start next weekend, if I'm not mistaken. So I could kind of talk about the whole bracket there and talk about the individual games. So maybe that makes more sense, because in those games, you know who the players are going to be, because players are not going to opt out when their teams are in the playoffs. But in the bowl games, you get players opting out, entering the transfer portal. Players can enter the transfer portal and then still actually wind up staying and playing in the bowl game for the team that they're still on. You got coaches leaving. It's just a crazy scenario, man. Bowl games are all about motivation, because you'll see teams just complete no-show in some of the bowls. You'll see other teams want to get there and win the bowl. It's all crazy, man. So we will talk about that. I did briefly mention some opinions on the the Salute to Veterans Bowl tomorrow or whatever, which used to be the Camellia Bowl, which is South Alabama, Western Michigan. That's the first of the big bowls up, and the Cricket Celebration Bowls tomorrow as well, which is a game that is to celebrate, I guess, a couple of the lower conference FCS teams. I don't know why that game exists necessarily, but that's what that game is. So kind of an interesting game in that one, actually. Interesting matchup. It could be a decent game. A lot of times that game has some surprises and some upset potential as well. So I'll talk about those games tomorrow, and we'll see what happens, man. Hopefully I can get up and do tomorrow's show. It's probably going to be a long one tomorrow, man. And like I said, I was considering switching over to college basketball, doing college basketball Friday nights, maybe once conference plays in total full gear. I don't know yet. We'll see, but we'll see what happens. That's going to do it for me for now, though. Let's have a good day, man. No plays today, so if you guys play anything, hopefully you win. I'm Tower Gang Toad. You can follow me on Twitter, of course, and go follow the Tower Gang Podcast, patreon.com/Tower Gang to throw some support. Live pre-show, post-show. You get to submit to the mailbag, hang out with us on Telegram, all the good stuff, man. Have a good one, and peace out. Let's have a good day.